Hey guys, Zoe here from OneGlassTrader.com, and today I'm really excited to be sharing with you my new indicator, which I'm calling the OGT RSI MTF. Now that may sound like a bit of a mouthful of acronyms, but effectively it stands for the RSI Multi-Time Frame Indicator. So in today's video I'll be going through what is the indicator, how does it work, what the settings are, what you can change, going through some examples on some charts, looking at potential entry signals and exit signals, and with all my indicators, it's not a holy grail, as you guys know. It doesn't work 100% of the time. No indicator works 100% of the time. So I think it's right for me to show you examples where it doesn't work, and really the indicator is more of a guide, an early warning system, whatever you want to call it, and other factors need to be taken into account, and we'll look at some of those today. I'll then, I'll throw up the OGT price action indicator that I've created that everyone, kind of knows me for, and see if we can get some confluence signals with the RSI, MTF, and also with the price action indicator. So the link to this indicator, the RSI MTF and the OGT price action indicator, if you guys aren't familiar with it, are all in the link below. So let's get with it. So what is the RSI MTF indicator? So what it effectively is a very simple indicator that gives you an early warning system of where price is oversold or overbought on the RSI on multiple time frames. And that's effectively what it is. So, if the RSI is oversold or overbought on multiple time frames, then it is more likely that price is looking to reverse. Not all the time, and again, we'll go through examples, but more than likely at some point in the near future, price will likely to reverse. So what I'm going to do is go through the settings. So I've got a Euro JPY 5-minute chart on here, and if I go to the settings here, I'll show you what it is. So you have the ability to change the RSI period or price, however you like to do it. I just kept it on the standard 14 period and close price. You've even got the opportunity to set your own overbought and oversold levels. So the higher the extreme number of the levels that they are, the less signals you're going to get, and probably more likely more relevant likely signals of an imminent reversal. Now, this is probably another one that's quite important, and I need to go to. So what this does, it looks at the RSI on the current time frame you're looking at. So we're on a 5-minute chart at the moment, so that's a given. It looks at the current time frame, and then you can set on how many upper time frames, so to speak, or higher time frames rather, that you want it to check to see if the RSI is overbought or oversold at the same time. So at the moment I've set it to 2. If I've tested it, if I go higher than 2, I don't really get many signals, but then again, you can still have that if you so choose to. So for this example, I've set 2, and what that means is if the RSI 14 period closed bar is above 70 or below 30 on a 5, 15, and 30-minute chart, it will give me a signal. And again, you can have the alert mode as a sound notification or as a push notification to your smartphone. So that's effectively what it is. So again, these are the standard settings that I use. Again, everyone is different, and do it on there. So what it does, it gives you arrows, as you can see here, of sell signals where it's in oversold territory, and green buy signals where it's in overbought territory here and oversold territory at the bottom. Now, that's what it does. It doesn't put anything at the bottom, so it's just the standard RSI and the standard momentum indicator that I like to use for kind of, divergence confluence factors, which we'll get to in a second. So just to show you how it works in terms of that. So if I drew a line on this point over here, for example, you can see that the RSI is above 70 on the 5-minute. If I go to the 15-minute, you can see that the RSI is also over 70, and on the 30-minute, it is also over 70. And just out of interest, interesting to see there, it is not above 70 on the 1 hour. So if I change the settings, I'll do that now quickly. to 3 to include the 1 hour chart, you will see, hopefully, that it does not show a signal because the 1 hour time frame is not overbought territory. So hopefully that makes sense on how it works. Definitely don't want to change the RSI. I want to change this one back to 2. So again, it's looking at 3 time frames, so it's a lot. It's a lot. So if you had a 15-minute chart, and you set the setting to 2, it will look at the 15, 30, and 1. Hopefully that makes sense. So we've gone through the settings, so let's have a look at some examples. So what it's showing here, from this bar all the way up to this bar here, closed at, the RSI was overbought on all 3 time frames. Now, again, do we enter in straight away as soon as we see an arrow? No, well, I wouldn't advise on. So the way I kind of put it in terms of how you want to trade this, there's very aggressive entry opportunities, and there's very considerate and cautious entry opportunities. So the most aggressive one would be is to, in this case, sell the opening of the next bar where the previous bar had no arrow. So this bar over here, because it doesn't have an arrow, because I'm guessing because it would take that the RSI has dropped now below 70 on the current time frame. It could still be, and probably is, overbought on the higher time frames, but as soon as it drops out on one of the time frames, which obviously will happen on the current chart first, the signal stops. So you would open then on the entry of this bar, you get it going against you a bit, and then you get a sell off there. So you can see here that this does sell off. If you did do that entry and you had your stop there about 15 points, 16 points, 1-to-1, depending on what your exit strategy are for risk to reward ratio and things like that. So that's one option, and it's probably the most aggressive option that there is. The second option is one that I'm playing around with, is drawing trend lines. So again, you can do an aggressive trend line or a considerate trend line based on the information that you know. So it started to come up there. You could draw a trend line, you can, and just do it to the lowest possible bars, which is about there. I would always wait until the arrows have finished, even though it may break the trend line and the arrows are still there. So it's probably about there-ish. Yeah. So again, probably the similar amount of entry there for that one to do there. Or you could do a more, considerate, or conservative rather, trend line. So you could do one from here that has these 2 opportunities there. If I can draw that properly. So that's another type of entry signal there, where it flows, and then when it breaks the trend line properly, then you can have a stop there, and then probably a better risk to reward ratio there. So that's another one that you can use. You can also use a trend line for the RSI or any oscillator that you want. So you could do that there, and then when the trend line breaks, which is again technically still within the arrow, so there you got it there. So that's an example there of how you can use trend lines to use there. The other one that you can use is divergence. I'm a big fan of divergence, but you can see in this scenario here on the RSI and also on the momentum indicator, there is no divergence on there. So that wouldn't be applied. So if you're solely looking for overbought, oversold areas or multiple time frames with divergence, you wouldn't take this trade. And then lastly, probably the most conservative one that there is the break of the 0 line, or the 100 line, sorry, in the momentum indicator. So 0 line's broken there, about there, yeah, 99.97, which is about here. Again, stop either there, or depending on how aggressive you want to be, and then you'll sell off there. So they're the kind of entry kind of signals there in terms of using the indicator. So I'm just going to scroll back, just find out some more examples of where there's an arrow. Okay. So here's the next arrow. Again, you could argue it's a really good it's a really good signal, but I'm sure there'll be examples of where it doesn't work as effective as that. So again, you can either buy on this bar here, it does go against you, but then goes off nicely with the stop at the bottom, highs there. The next way to do it is a trend line. So you can either do a trend line, apologies. So you can either do a trend line very aggressive on this way, which would be the same, or you could do a more conservative one, which can be this one here. Because then that, if you do a trend line like this, like that one, it does go against you, it does save you, but you are getting in a bit later into the trade and potentially giving up pips. The next one there is divergence. So no divergence there. Don't really have any divergence here either, so that probably wouldn't have counted. But so again, that's another signal there. Again, it gives you that early warning system that a potential change may happen, and there you go, and there's your reversal there. Keep going. Okay, so here's an interesting one. Here's an interesting one. So here you've got some very, very aggressive sell-off there, and the first arrow buys this one. It does, go inside your favor. But then depending on where your exit was, you could get, well, you wouldn't actually get stopped out. If your stop loss was there, you'll still be in this trade depending on what your risk to reward ratio is there. Then you've got the trend line. Again, you can either do a conservative trend line. Again, you wouldn't know all this stuff here, but you can just go from the turning point downwards there. So again, you could get in around this area here, put the low there. Again, you would have seen this bit before, about there. Or again, you can do a bit more of an aggressive one based on what you can see, which will be around there. And now we're looking at divergence. Again, not really any divergence there, really, to be honest with you. Nothing to worry, nothing to look at there. And then it goes there, but then you get it again over here. And again, this would be, trend lines this way. This is probably the best trend line to go for. Or you can go at the opening of this bar over here. And again, this one, eventually you do get your upward move on there. So again, so there's another two examples there of where you could get into the trade. Okay, so here's an example, here's a perfect example actually of where you would lose or it doesn't work every single time. So you've got a massive cluster there of oversold territory on the 3 time frames. If you tried to get in at this bar here, you obviously would have got stopped out when this happens. Again, you've got I can't really see who's got that relative there. Do you really have divergence? It's kind of flat to up, flat to up. It does go up, but it doesn't go up enough for you to hit any risk to reward ratio on there. So again, here's an example here where, if you were in this trade, it does go down, but eventually it does go up. So, when you're in a strong trend, you're going to see pockets of up arrows in this scenario where it may do a little bit of a reverse, and then eventually it does its move. So again, that one didn't work out. Another example here of their trend line, stop there, and then you've got your, let's say you're getting on this bar, goes against you a bit, but again, depending on when you put your stop, and then you got there. What some people like to do actually is once the signals come in over here, is what you can do is you can kind of put a pending order near the bottom to buy. So then you're getting in at a better price and a better risk to reward ratio. It's not something I tend to do, but it could be something that could be quite useful if you're trying to employ this type of strategy. And then let's have a look here. Okay, yeah, again, look, another example of where you get a cluster, but price is very, very aggressive in terms of this downward. It's a very, very strong momentum down move to the upside there, to the downside, sorry. So this one again, wouldn't have got you into any profit. Even if you did a trend line, opened on this bar, you would have got stopped out. Even if you waited, let's see if you waited, yeah, even if you waited for the momentum to cross above 100, again, you would have got stopped out. Um, so it doesn't work there. But then you see it happen again, another cluster, and then you've got, well, bullish engulfing actually. So we'll check the OGT actually, see if this is a price action indicator bar there. Then eventually you get your move up. So even if you were in this trade, and depending on how big your stop loss is and things like that, to give it enough room to the opportunity to make its move, you would have been in this trade. So let me put the price action indicator on. Just put the engulfing on actually, see what happens. Yeah, so that you've got an example here of a bullish engulfing pattern using the OGT price action indicator in conjunction with the RSI multi-time frame indicator as well. So that to me would have been a great signal to take if you had both on. I'll probably keep both indicators on in case something comes like this. Again, you could also argue that momentum is strong with the bearish engulfing, and then you get this cluster. Do you really want to take it when momentum is really stronger inside the downside? So you may have rules in there that if momentum is below a certain amount, that to determine how strong the trend is. So maybe the ADX, for example, if the ADX is really high on the chart, therefore it's just really strong momentum trend, then you may want to wait for a bit longer for its reversal, i.e. at this point where it gets a bit weaker. So if I look at between this point and this point, you actually have got your divergence here of bearish bullish divergence, where the momentum is making higher highs, or lower highs, sorry, and the price is making lower lows. So therefore momentum is deteriorating, and there you go, and there you get your move upwards there. So I really hope you found this tutorial useful. Really would appreciate your feedback in terms of how I can make this indicator better. Again, this is only the first version, so appreciate some comments and feedbacks. Please like and share this video. And like I said to you before, the link for this indicator as well as the traditional OGT price action indicator will be below. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.